Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto Was the Red X. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. Demon's Throne. The Titans stared in shock and fear as Trigun and Kyuubi glared down at them, the massive red behemoth inhaling a breath as if to savor his freedom. Kyuubi snarled and shook his body, as if it were wet, and given its former home this wasn't too surprising. The thrashing of its body caused its many tails to flick and twist around, bringing the ceiling down on top of them, as Dr. Fate looked on at the spectacle of the two demons silently. The end has come, Dr. Fate whispered to himself while Shier, Batman, and the Titans stared on as Trigun cracked his neck, flames rising up all around them, as he narrowed his eyes upon the mortals before him, the Kyuubi roaring loudly at his side as it glared at them as well. The earth is ours. Trigun cried out while glaring down upon the Titans and Justice League Unlimited ominously. Kyuubi hissing as its ears folded down along the top of its head, eyes narrowed in anger. And the time of mortals has finally come to its end. Trigun then declared while taking a deep breath of air and exhaling a sonic wave of red energy. The energy lunged forward, throwing the heroes back as it then hit the ground and started to spread, an insidious grin upon Trigun's features as it did so. Dr. Fate grunted as he held the shield around himself and Shier up, at Trigun growling as he gripped the ground and glared up at Trigun furiously. Batman used his grapple to hold on to the ground, grabbing Beast Boy by his ankle as he was nearly thrown away. Knight used the same idea as his mentor and grit his teeth as he held Kid Flash from flying away. Donna and Starfire both held on to Cyborg as they looked up towards Trigun, only for Kyuubi to inhale a deep breath, as the massive red behemoth smirked down at the humans. The Kyuubi then roared forward, its great roar completely pulverizing the stone around it, before sending the humans flying up out of the underground chasm, and to the surface, as Trigun held up his hand before slamming it into the ground, sending another pulse of red energy out from his body. Meanwhile, the energy Trigun released spread out over the land, the soil became dry and building demolished, water became lava, and even the sky itself turned an eerie red. Birds and animals fell to the ground, only skeletons remaining, while men and women alike were petrified by the beast's vile power as it passed over them. The energy then continued to spread further across the globe. From Jump City it then consumed more of America before it continued to spread outwards. Soon the oceans were lava as well, the other continents were transformed, and finally, as four-eyed ravens flocked about in the world with no mortals, the earth itself had suddenly become Trigun's new home. Meanwhile, deep in Jump City, lying beneath a familiar shield of black energy is Nightwing. Groaning as he slowly awoke, the shield dissipating and allowing several rocks to fall to his sides, the teen got up and widened his eyes upon seeing the ruined world that Trigun had created. Walking through the ruins that had once been Jump City, Nightwing held his arm and bowed his head. I should have done something, I should have stopped this. Knight declared while walking over to a corner, and turning only for his eyes to widen in shock at what he saw. Men and women were frozen in stone, seemingly unaware of what had happened to them as they turned to stone. Walking down the silent street, Nightwing shook his head as he gazed at the petrified civilians. These are innocent people. Knight mumbled as he was humbled by the sheer magnitude of Trigun's cruelty. Petrified alive, never dying, never being free of their stone prisons, are they even aware of what's happened to them, or are they all in the void now, trapped in darkness forever? The dark-haired teen wondered to himself, only idly noting just how morbid his thoughts were, as a dark shadow passed overhead. Who's there? The dark-haired teen demanded while looking around, and then turned in time to see a red-eyed raven land on some rubble. Raven. Knight wondered to himself, and the bird flapped its wings before taking off into the sky, flying into the distance. Wait, come back. Knight cried as he gave chase, rushing after the bird and going deeper into the city than before. Elsewhere, Beast Boy groaned while pushing himself to his feet, then shook his head for a moment. Oh man, my head, I really don't want to do that again. The Green Titan declared while slowly rising up to his feet, only to look around and twitch visibly. He was on the east side of Jump City, a simple suburban area where Kitten lived. But much like what Nightwing had found, Beast Boy found himself on a street, people frozen in stone as they went about their daily lives. Dude. The Green Titan whispered to himself before sitting up and walking around, soon coming towards Kitten's house. However, like the rest of the city, it was dilapidated and nearly destroyed, thanks solely to Trigun's magic. Walking around the house, Beast Boy then found Killer Moth as a statue through a window, seemingly working on something. Oh man, not again, he whispered as he knew Kitten would have been in school, and thus most likely suffer the same fate as her father had. Sighing tiredly, the green-furred teen slowly got up and made his way to the side. However, when he heard something howl in the distance, he turned around and saw a silhouetted wolf standing on some rubble, but his eyes were off, both being a familiar gray-violet color, while a raven landed on his head. Nar. Ray. The Green Titan wondered and the raven flew into the air, the wolf vanishing soon after as the bird flew into the city. Wait. Beast Boy cried while quickly changing himself into an animal and following after the bird. Following it into the city, Beast Boy soon spotted Cyborg helping Nightwing onto the Sky Needle at the center of town, the other Titans with them, and landed near the mall. "I'm glad you made it," Cyborg said as he helped Knight to his feet, and Starfire rushed over to the dark-haired teen and wrapped her arms around him in a hug. "Robin, you were unharmed," she whispered happily, and Kid Flash pouted. "What am I, chopped liver?" he wondered aloud, and Donna bopped him on the head with a deep scowl across her face. "Not now, Bart," she grumbled while Starfire released Nightwing from her hug, the teen clearing his throat as he adjusted his collar nervously. Looking around, he then smiled upon seeing most of his friends once again, and then turned serious as he looked to all of them. "I saw something out there in the city, it led me here." Knight told the others and saw them nod their heads, each having had a similar experience. "It led all of us here," Beast Boy declared before looking around and letting out a sigh. "Well, almost all of us," he finished while his ears lowered, everyone noticing the missing member of their team. "We're all that's left," Cyborg mumbled while looking out to the city, and Nightwing frowned to himself. "What about the Justice League?" he questioned of his team, and they looked to one another for a moment before someone else decided to interject. "Right here," Batman declared as he and Etrigan half carried a near passed out Dr. Fate, Share flying overhead only to land beside of the Dark Knight. "Wait, how'd you guys survive Trigon's spell?" Kid Flash questioned and then frowned for a moment as he looked at himself. "For that matter, why are we still here?" Kid Flash then continued, and Donna nodded her head in agreement with her red-haired friend. "This is how I survived," Batman replied while holding up his left hand to reveal a familiar gold ring around his ring finger. A ring of Azar, they effectively nullified Trigon's power. The Dark Knight exclaimed while he and Etrigan laid Dr. Fate on the ground, the man groaning lightly. "Please, is the Doctor of Fate alright?" Starfire asked worriedly while looking over to where the helmeted man lay and Share sighed. "He's tired from using up much of his power in order to keep us from being turned to stone," Share replied, and Donna pinched the bridge of her nose for a moment before looking over to Etrigan. "And him?" she questioned, and Etrigan grunted for a moment. "My power alone could protect me, Amazon, for I am a demon. Such minor tricks will not work on me, like they would a mere human," Etrigan replied in rhyme, and Donna raised a brow for a moment only for Cyborg to sigh. "Well, that's all well and good, but why are we safe then? You guys obviously prepared for this, so what's kept us from being turned to stone as well?" Cyborg questioned of the Justice League Unlimited only for Beast Boy to answer instead. "It was Raven. She saved us, I don't know how but she did," Beast Boy replied while Nightwing crossed his arms and took a thoughtful expression as he contemplated what was done. Frowning as a memory came up, the Dark Squire turned to his friends with a serious look on his face. "Back at the tower, when Raven knocked us out, the last thing I heard was her voice. It said be safe. She did something that protected us from Trigon," Knight explained while looking to his friends, and Donna shook her head for a moment. "How? If Dr. Fate was nearly drained of all his power by just protecting Hulk Girl, how could Raven have protected all of us?" Donna questioned with a raised brow, and Batman nodded his head while walking over to her and Kid Flash. "The answer is simple. She divided her power 4 ways, and then placed it into her closest friends, leaving only the bare minimum for herself." Batman started to explain to the Titans, and Beast Boy quickly looked at the Dark Knight in confusion. "Well, that explains me, Star, Cyborg, and Knight, but what about Donna and Bart? How'd they survive?" Beast Boy questioned, and the Dark Knight knelt down before the two before giving a look to Nightwing. "Raven had 2 rings of Azar, correct?" he questioned, and Nightwing raised a brow before nodding his head. "Then the answer should be obvious," Batman replied while reaching into Donna's belt and pulled out one of the rings. "By hair, when does she put that on me?" Donna questioned while snatching the ring as Batman rose back to his feet. The same time she gave the majority of her power to the other Titans, Batman replied before looking over to Kid Flash with a deep frown. "Bart, check around in your boots and gloves, I'll bet you'll find one as well," he then asked, and Kid Flash blinked before taking off one of his boots and shook out another ring of Azar from it. "Well, I just thought it was some rubble," Kid Flash admitted to himself as he picked up the ring and clasped it in his hand for a moment. "But if that's the case, why didn't Raven protect Nar as well?" Cyborg questioned, and Etrigan decided to answer for the Dark Knight this time. "It comes from the boy's power to heal, like Jason and me, he was the Fox Demon Seal." Etrigan rhymed once more, and Batman scowled deeply as that added even more to the blonde's past, and none of it could be good if he were alone. "You mean the Fox was inside the boy like you are inside Jason, Etrigan?" Share questioned of the orange-skinned demon, and he frowned for a moment as he contemplated a way to explain. "Nay, I'm afraid it's not the same, dear lass, for this demon is vile, devious, and in another class," Etrigan replied in rhyme, and Batman frowned to himself before Dr. Fate slowly sat up and took several deep breaths of air. "I'm afraid things are far worse than that," Dr. Fate declared, and the group turned to face the man as he placed a hand to his head. "What do you mean?" Batman asked the helmeted man, and Dr. Fate sighed before shaking his head and answering them. "That thing greatly resembles an ancient monster. Its name has been lost to time and story, but it is usually referred to as the Hell Beast. It was a monster of such power it could create demons from the negative energy of mortals. Its cruelty was the thing of legends, even Trigun cannot compare. Dr. Fate replied while Batman crossed his arms and narrowed his eyes dangerously. What do you know about this thing? Besides being an incarnation of hate and rage as well as the creature that helped Trigun to escape his prison. Batman questioned of the helmeted man and Dr. Fate placed a hand to his head for a moment. Unfortunately, I'm not sure the Hell Beast itself was a powerful being, all else about it has been lost to time. Dr. Fate replied while looking to the Dark Knight frowned at the lack of information. Dude, like what does that mean? Beast Boy suddenly asked while leaning over to Donna and she sighed. Big trouble. She replied, and Beast Boy made an O with his mouth before staying back as Nightwing looked out at the city with a frown. As if any of this even matters anymore. Cyborg muttered while walking forward with his arms crossed over his chest. Look around, there's nothing left. Nara is gone, Ray's gone, hell, the world is gone, we've lost our heavy hitters and look at us, we're a ragtag group whose collective power won't even be enough to tickle those two on a good day. What's the point? The titanium teen questioned while rubbing his face, and Nightwing glared angrily at his second in command. Hope. The dark-haired teen replied while walking to the rest of his team and looking at them all seriously. That's the point, as long as we're still here we still have a chance, and that's why we're going to keep fighting, not just for the world, but for Raven, and for Naruto as well. Nightwing replied while holding out his hand towards his team, Starfire smiling and placing her hand over his. For our friends. She decided with a smile while Cyborg raised a brow towards the dark square. I thought you still had it in for X, and in case you missed the big reveal a while ago, Nara's X. Cyborg noted while looking at the younger teen and a deep frown crossed Nightwing's features in response. Not like that really matters anymore, now does it? Night replied seriously, and Cyborg shook his head with a smirk as he placed his hand over Starfire and Nightwing's. I guess not, and it just means I have one more thing to kick that red fucker's ass over. Cyborg decided with a grin, and Beast Boy quickly joined up with the other titans. Yeah dudes, let's do this for everyone that guy has hurt. Beast Boy stated while thinking of not only Naruto and Raven, but also of Kitten and Killer Moth. However, as their hands touched, a swirl of familiar black energy crackled to life at their hands, and then threw them back. Slowing to a stop, the four titans looked to one another in shock before Cyborg finally broke the silence. Okay, that felt weird. He declared, and Beast Boy nodded his head in agreement with his titanium friend. Looking to his hand and then over to Batman, Nightwing narrowed his eyes before clenching his fist. It's like Batman said, since she couldn't stop Trigun from coming, Raven divided up her powers to protect us. She gave us a way to fight him. Night stated while holding up his hand, flames of ebony magic dancing from his open palm. And it seems to grow stronger as we stand as one. Starfire realized as well while walking to her friends, and they all looked over to Batman and the Justice League Unlimited. So what's the plan? Nightwing questioned and Batman raised a brow, his arms crossed over his chest as he looked to his former protege. Plan? I'm not the one in charge here, remember? This is your city, it's your call, Dick. Batman reminded the teen, and Nightwing felt his eyes widen for a moment before shaking his head and sighing. As much as I want to say that we can do this on our own, it'd be a lie. We can't fight both Trigun and this QB thinks so. Nightwing said to the Dark Knight while then taking a breath as he swallowed his pride and walked up to Batman silently. Will you please help us stop them? Nightwing pleaded of the Dark Knight, and Batman was silent for a moment before he hummed and turned to the edge of the spire. We need to act quickly. Every moment we wait only gives Trigun more time to recuperate his strength. Batman finally decided and then turned to face the gathered heroes, Cyborg charging his sonic cannon. What do we do first? The titanium teen questioned and Batman narrowed his eyes silently. The only thing we can do at this point, attack them before they can attack us first. Batman replied while looking to the distance, where Trigun sat upon Titan's tower, using it as a throne, Kyubi to the south, sleeping within the entire Jump City arena, as if it were a bed with its tails wrapped around its body. Tartarus HQ. Upon Naruto leaving the building, the majority of Tartarus had begun to prepare a party to celebrate their leader's day of birth. Jinx of course found out and had been against the whole thing, however eventually caved in and agreed to help them, if only to make this birthday better than the ones he'd had before. However, clearly that no longer mattered, as now the building Tartarus called their HQ lay in ruins, its walls and ceiling having fallen in on itself. Within the ruined building, several people slowly stir before Jinx gets up and groans, a hand going to her head, while never noticing that the string of beads Naruto had given to her was glowing softly. Ugh, my head. She muttered before shaking her head and looking around the dilapidated building for a moment, only to gape when she saw the crimson sky above. Somehow, I just know this is Raven's fault. Jinx then said mostly to herself with a frown, then looked to the side as Donnie flew out of some rubble and wobbled in the air. Oh man, what hit me? She wondered to herself while becoming tangible once more and landing on the rubble. Frowning for a moment, Jinx then looked to the ring on her finger she'd obtained from the others, as well as the string of beads with a frown upon seeing both were glowing. Okay, why is the ring you guys gave me glowing? Jinx then asked flatly while looking to Donnie, who opened one eye and shrugged her shoulders. Looking around, Jinx saw Mammoth getting up, pushing a slab of rock off of himself and Gizmo. Boy, did the world just end or what? Gizmo wondered aloud while rubbing his aching head, Jinx looking to the skull with a frown before sighing. From the looks of the sky I'd say you're pretty close, Giz. Jinx replied while Gizmo blinked, then looked up to the sky and groaned. Shit, I hate when I'm right. The tiny terror declared while Mammoth picked the tiny terror up and placed him on his shoulder. Private Hive then stood up, teeth gritted as he pushed a slab of rock off of himself, Dwilla groaning as she got up from under the militant teen. Oh my head. She mumbled while rubbing her temples and looked to the side where Kid Wicket walked out of a dark portal apathetically. To the side, Blackfire kicked down a wall and dragged Seymour out of the debris, waving away some dust as she left the one-eyed teen on the ground to groan. Where's Billy? Jinx asked and all of them looked around, and then watched as Billy crawled out from beneath some rubble with a groan. Ugh, Billy, don't want to do that again. How about you, Billy? The red-clad teen questioned of one of his clones, and it nodded its head in agreement with him. No way, Billy, done with this, I'm going to go on vacation when this here crisis passes. The clone replied, getting a nod of agreement with the original Billy, as they both got up and walked over to the other members of Tartarus. Okay, who knows what just happened? Blackfire demanded while brushing off some rubble from her armor. Blinking for a moment, Jinx looked around and mentally cursed, as they all seemed to be looking to her for an answer. I don't know, you got any ideas, Giz? Jinx asked while turning to the tiny terror, and Gizmo snorted while giving them all a glare. Would you snot munchers get a clue? I know even less about what's going on than the rest of you. Especially since all my tech besides my personal gear is smashed. The tiny terror exclaimed, and Blackfire rolled her eyes while looking over to Jinx, the pink-haired girl groaning as she rubbed her face tiredly. Well then, will someone please tell me what just happened around here? Jinx demanded, and Kid Wicket narrowed his eyes while turning to an intruder. Quite simple actually. The world just ended. The voice of Ravager commented as the white-haired girl made her way towards Tartarus. You're the one who took control of me and nearly got me killed. Blackfire hissed out while glaring at the white-haired teen, Ravager rolling her eyes for a moment before smirking. True. But I'm also the only one who knows what's going on. Ravager replied, and Jinx gave Blackfire a look, the Tamaranian reluctantly refraining from ripping the white-haired girl in half. What you see now is the result of Trigon breaking his way into our world, the Rings of Azar. You all have protected you all from the power of Trigon, or else you'd all be statues right now. Ravager then explained while motioning around to the devastation around them all. Wait. The big fucker is loose. Gizmo demanded, and Ravager nodded her head with a smirk. Screw that man. If he's here, then I'm going to Tamarin. Gizmo decided only for Mammoth to bop him on the head for the remark. Even if you tried to flee this world, once Trigon gathers his strength, he'll begin to spread his influence even further. Until finally, all worlds will fall under his complete control. Ravager stated darkly, and the members of Tartarus gulped audibly before looking around. Where's Tem when you need him? Jinx wondered, and a slim frown crossed Ravager's face at that point. Unfortunately, it appears your leader had a demon sealed inside of him. This beast has now been freed by Trigon as well, and so we have two big pissed off demons out to destroy all mortal life. Not one. Ravager added, and Jinx's eyes widened at that tidbit of information before a bad feeling gripped at her stomach. Then what happened to Tempest? She asked, and Ravager crossed her arms and leaned back into a wall, her eye closed. He was ripped apart from the inside out. Both he and Raven have been more or less destroyed by the two escaping their prisons through them. Ravager replied curtly, and Jinx's eyes widened before she grit her teeth. I just knew that girl was going to be the death of him. She exclaimed while throwing her arms into the air, and Blackfire mentally rolled her eyes before looking to Ravager with a scowl. Then what exactly do you suggest we do? We have no leader, no home, and nowhere left to run. Blackfire listed while ticking off her fingers before Donnie decided to pipe in her own suggestion. Why not hide in the ghost zone? She asked, and Ravager mentally groaned. The ghost zone is linked to the earth. What affects this world also affects it, thus I'm afraid even it wouldn't be safe for very long. Ravager replied, and Donnie nodded her head slowly as she saw how that might be a problem. Besides, I'm not hiding anywhere. I'm going to find this big old demon and skin it for what it did to Temp. Jinx declared, her eyes glowing a brilliant pink color, and causing an amused smirk to cross Ravager's lips. Oh really? And just how do you expect to defeat a demon? No, not only a demon, but a low S-class demon and a high A-class demon, when they're together, and with only a small, ragtag group, that doesn't look like it could take a B-class demon on its own. Ravager quipped with a frown, and Jinx twitched before growling towards the white-haired girl angrily. Well, we have to do something. I'm sure as hell not sitting around just waiting to die. Jinx declared, and Gizmo snorted for a moment before muttering something under his breath. Alright, I'm with her. I'm sure as hell not going to just sit here and wait to die. And if this demon thing took out Temp, well then Tartarus are going to teach it a lesson it'll never forget. Gizmo declared while Mammoth grinned and cracked his knuckles ominously, Ravage looking on for only a moment before a smirk crossed her lips. Very well. But we need to meet up with the only other survivors and coordinate our attacks if we are to be effective against this threat. Ravager then stated while walking over to Kid Wicket and smirked down at the gray-skinned youth. Take us to the Sky Needle, from there I'll show you where we need to go. Ravager explained, and Kid Wicket nodded before pulling his cape up and swinging it around to encompass all of Tartarus. Once he did, a black sphere appeared where they had been a scant few moments before, only to shrink and then vanish into itself. In town, a hand suddenly burst out of the rubble that had once been an old dilapidated observatory once owned by Dr. Chang. From the rubble the hand soon grasped hold of some debris and pulled a body from beneath it. Twisting up out of the rubble, the man frowned upon seeing the mangled wreck that was his body. I really must find a more sturdy host in the future, Orochimaru decided while opening his mouth and allowing another him to form out of it, his body repaired as if he'd never been harmed at all. Shaking his head for a moment, the man then stretched out his limbs, ensuring that they were all working properly before clicking his tongue. Orochimaru then frowned as he noticed that his full skin was partially ripped open, and revealed some of his host's true features. Shaking his head, Orochimaru ripped the flesh from his face and allowed it to fall to the ground. Forming a few quick hand seals, he then created a new version of his face over his host's. This one had pale white skin, and the familiar tattoos Orochimaru was known for. Climbing to his feet, the Serpentine Man then looked out over the ruined city with a smirk on his face. Seems I was correct, the apocalypse has truly come. The snake-eyed man mused while looking to the side, where Trigun was sitting on Titan's tower like it was some kind of throne. It would seem that the demons of this world are might sight more mutated than the ones in my world. Orochimaru mused to himself before crossing his arms when he saw the massive orange beast sleeping within the entirety of the Jump City arena. Now that can only mean trouble, the Kyuubi, and it's free from Naruto-kun. Orochimaru noted with a deep frown across his face, and then crossed his arms over his chest. Now things look less predictable. That red demon alone looks like it was able to cause this amount of damage to the world add on the Kyuubi, and its power to the mix, and you have one very bad situation. Orochimaru mused to himself while looking at the scene and spotted several tiny dots heading straight for Trigun. And of course those Teen Titans, being the foolish do-gooder children that they are, will have to attempt to defeat it head-on. Orochimaru noted while looking at the city with a frown, then looked over the terrain for a moment. While the buildings have been mostly destroyed, the water has somehow become lava, and the sky has turned red. Orochimaru noted before kicking a large slab of rubble to his side, frowning when he was able to break it. Clicking his tongue, the man then took a kunai and stabbed his leg, bearing the stab of pain and frowning, as the scene didn't vanish as he somewhat hoped it would. And none of it is an illusion either. Orochimaru noted, and then smirked as he watched Trigun send the Titans flying with a single attack, shaking his head slowly at the sight. Children, no matter what world they're in, they are all the same. Foolish, cocky, headstrong, arrogant. It actually amuses me to see something so similar to my own world is true here. Ku. Orochimaru mused with a dark chuckle as he looked at the city, only to feel a presence behind himself. Ah, someone else who survived the end of the world. Orochimaru mused with a smirk as he let out a dark chuckle. No doubt with all of we survivors working together, there might be some slight amount of hope in defeating these demons. Orochimaru mused aloud while slowly turning around to face the presence he'd felt behind him. Perhaps, but that's not why I'm here. Slade replied while walking out of the shadows, the S-shaped rune erased from his brow as he walked over to Orochimaru. You are Orochimaru, correct? Slade questioned while looking to the visibly serpentine man, and the white-skinned body snatcher grinned darkly. You are correct. And judging by your armor, mask, and costume, I would have to say that you are the one called Slade. Orochimaru returned while the sick smirk on the white-skinned man's lips gave even Slade a shiver of fear. Correct, and I believe that we can benefit from one another, Orochimaru. Slade replied, causing the serpentine man to raise a slender brow as he gazed at Slade coldly. Really now, how do you see that? Orochimaru questioned calmly, and Slade folded his arms behind his back silently. I have access to a certain chemical, one that causes the body to constantly regenerate itself, keeping the body from aging even a day after its inoculation, and even reviving the one using it from all but the most fatal of wounds. Slade replied, and a cruel grin stretched across Orochimaru's lips while looking to the man. In other words, you would offer me immortality. Orochimaru realized, and Slade nodded his head silently while gazing at the man coldly. Well then, what is it that you desire in exchange then, sir? Orochimaru questioned, and Slade turned and pointed towards the massive hole in the center of the ruins where the library once stood. Help me retrieve what I have lost, and the formula will be yours. Slade replied, piquing Orochimaru's interest as the snake-eyed man raised a brow and grinned. Really now? And what is it that you have lost? Orochimaru questioned, and Slade narrowed his eyes. That which is most precious to me. He replied before reaching up and removing his mask from his face, revealing the skull that lay beneath it. My flesh and blood. Slade uttered in a sinister voice while looking towards Orochimaru, the set pale man merely grinning upon seeing what had become of the man. Ah, I think I'm going to enjoy this, perhaps I can require a few things as well. Orochimaru mused aloud before walking over to the man and holding out his hand, Slade taking as both shook on their proverbial deal with the devil, but who was making the deal with whom was the real question. Elsewhere, the Titans landed in the crater that had once been the library of Jump City, bouncing across the floor before sliding to a halt. Groaning lightly, Cyborg pushed himself up to his feet and put a hand to his head. Guess that wasn't angry enough. He mumbled, referring to something Starfire had said about Raven's power reacting to strong emotions. Beast Boy shook his head as he pushed himself up as well, only to sigh as he looked around the massive crater Trigon had come from. Of all the places to crash and burn, would it have to be here? The Green Jester wondered aloud, even as Nightwing climbed back to his feet and placed a hand to his head. Starfire then flew from the back of the room, rubbing one of her arms and wincing as she looked around the massive room. Please, I wish to leave this place. Starfire pleaded while Nightwing crossed his arms with a frown across his face. I guess Raven's power wasn't enough to destroy him, but at least we now know Trigon can at least be harmed. Nightwing noted to himself while walking towards the stairs that Raven had used earlier. Our next attack will have to be more coordinated. Knight then added before looking up, Cher landing in a crater, soon followed by Dr. Fate, Kid Flash, Donna, Etrigan and Batman. Dude. Beast Boy cried while rushing over to them, Dr. Fate pushing himself up with one arm only to fall back. That Kyuubi is definitely more dangerous than it seems. It managed to beat us all by merely flicking its tails about. Dr. Fate explained through a pain grunt as he held his very bruised ribs. Even he could only take so much punishment. To deal with those of us restricted to the ground, it slammed into it with its tail to cause an earthquake, knocking most of us off balance long enough for it to slam its tails into us, knocking us around like we were nothing to it. Dr. Fate explained while holding his side, Beast Boy helping the man up, while Starfire helped Cher. Then how to deal with those of you flying? Nightwing questioned and Batman pulled himself up, holding his ribs with a frown. It created a firestorm and blew it towards them, then started flicking them to the ground with its tails. Batman explained and Nightwing gaped for a moment before frowning as he realized just how screwed they really were. Then after it got us all to the ground, it made a hurricane and sent us all flying away. Kid Flash finished while rubbing his head with a pained grimace, Donna pushing herself to her feet and wobbling for a moment. How did your attack on Trigon go? Batman questioned and Nightwing grimaced visibly while looking to his former mentor. Not much better, he beat us without even having to move. We only managed to inflict minimal damage, and it seemed like he was growing. Nightwing replied, and a frown crossed Batman's lips as he considered that for a moment. He's gathering his strength. If we don't stop him soon, he'll be strong enough to finish us all off. Batman replied while crossing his arms with a deep frown crossing his features. Don't forget the fox thing. It's huge, nasty, and it packs a punch. Kid Flash reminded and Batman nodded his head in agreement with the red-haired boy. Dude, we could seriously use some help here. We're a group of 10 taking on 2 army-sized demons. There's no way we can take them both down on our own, even with our powers. The Green Jester declared and then turned when he heard a snort, only to gape. Following his eyes, the rest of the Titans frowned upon seeing the bulk of Tartarus, Jinx at the front with a frown on her face. Well, you're all in luck, cause we're currently available at a very reasonable price. Jinx noted while flicking her hand, pink hex energy floating off of it, as she then flipped off of the rim of the ceiling and landed on the ground. The rest of Tartarus then followed the pink cat before standing before the Titans and Justice League Unlimited members present. Oh man, it's Batman. Seymour noted fearfully, Billy gulping when he saw the Dark Knight once again. What the how did you guys survive? Cyborg demanded while glaring at Gizmo, the tiny terror grinning as he faced off against the titanium teen. What's the matter, Robo-Geek? Not happy to see us? Gizmo asked, and the twitch to Cyborg's eye was all he needed before a grin crossed the midget's lips. Oh, are you afraid we're going to upstage you loser Titans? Gizmo quipped, and Cyborg growled at the tiny terror, his normal eye twitching wildly as he does so. I'll have you know we have everything perfectly under control. Cyborg declared and Jinx raised a brow while looking around for a moment. Oh yes, and from the look of things around here you're doing such a wonderful job. Jinx quipped dryly, Cyborg growling only for Nightwing to place a hand on his friend's shoulder. What do you want? Nightwing demanded and Jinx took a mock thoughtful look for a moment before answering. Besides heroes who can do their job and keep the world from being destroyed. She asked, riling the majority of the Titans' tempers, and Batman pinched the bridge of his nose before walking forward. You're here because of X, aren't you? The Dark Knight questioned, briefly catching Jinx off guard before she frowned towards the man. Well, I guess you're not called the world's greatest detective for nothing. Jinx mumbled quietly while then placing her hands onto her hips. Alright fine, we're here cause of her saying we need to work with you losers. Jinx explained while pointing her thumb over to the Ravager, the white-haired girl walking out of the shadows calmly. Oh hell no. There's no way we're working with that psychopath. Cyborg exclaimed while pointing to the white-haired girl, a scowl crossing Nightwing's lips as well as he watched her walk towards Batman. You really need to keep them on a leash. She commented calmly, and Batman noticed the rings of Azar she and Tartarus were wearing. Besides, I'm not here to fight, I'm here to help. Ravager then added while crossing her arms over her chest, a frown across her face as she looked at the Dark Knight silently. So I see you did kill the members of the Order of Scath. You needed their rings of Azar to give to Tartarus, or was that Slade's plan? Batman questioned the girl and saw a slight facial twitch nearly no one else would notice. I see. So what did Slade plan on doing? Getting his payment then betraying Trigon? That man questioned the white-haired girl, and she narrowed her soul eye onto the man angrily. Do you want to stay here and talk about the old man, or are we going to get to planning a counterattack against Trigon and Kyuubi? Ravager demanded flatly, and the Dark Knight nodded his head while turning to the Titans and Justice League Unlimited. We'll focus on dealing with Trigon first. His abilities will be only slightly more difficult to deal with than this Kyuubi creature. Batman decided while walking over to Dr. Fate to discuss something. The fact that he's the reason Raven is gone being only a minor reason, I suppose. Ravager mused aloud, only to smirk as Starfire lunged at her and grabbed her by her collar. You will not speak of our friend. Both you and your father have brought nothing but pain and misery to me and my friends. Starfire growled at the girl, actually causing Blackfire to grin for a moment. And to think you stopped me from doing the same thing even though she almost killed me. Blackfire noted, a little too loudly, and Starfire's eyes started to blaze a bright green as she formed a starbolt into one hand. Must you make her even more pissed off than she already was? Donnie demanded while Wella fell over laughing to herself, Nightwing slapping his face. Ugh, she's here as well. Let's just send Wella to the demons, she'll drive them so crazy they'll want to go back to hell. Nightwing offered flippantly and Beast Boy and Kid Flash both snickered while Cyborg and Donna pulled Starfire off of Ravager, the girl screaming a slew of Tamaranian curses, enough to cause even Blackfire to blush at the vulgar swearing. What's she saying? Seymour questioned and Blackfire blinked for a moment before shaking her head. You really don't want to know? She stated while looking at her sister with a look of shock on her face. And I really never thought she had such a dirty mouth before. Blackfire added while looking on in shock, as they had to drag Starfire away from the white-haired girl. Cracking her neck and rubbing her shoulder for a moment, Ravager frowned while looking to the glaring Tamaranian. You should really keep her under control. I only offered to help because it suits me. Neither me nor my father would wish this fate upon the world. Ravager stated simply and Starfire shouted another slew of curses towards the white-haired girl. Enough, this bickering isn't helping any of us. Batman growled out while giving a look to Starfire, before turning to Ravager. Now then, your father worked with Trigon so you must know something about him. Batman reasoned and Ravager nodded her head silently for a moment. Trigon is all-seeing, his mind can be anywhere at any time, there is no way to surprise him, unless you divert his attention elsewhere. Making a sneak attack against him almost completely impossible. Ravager explained while Batman frowned for a moment while rubbing his chin. Almost but not impossible. If we split into two groups one can draw Trigon's attention to them, while the rest of us attack him from behind. Batman mused to himself while walking away, and Cyborg stared at the man as if he were crazy. And how are we supposed to do that? We already tried fighting him, look where it got us. Cyborg reminded the Dark Knight and a smirk crossed Ravager's lips as she looked over to the Titanium teen mockingly. It's the end of the world, did you really expect it to be easy? Ravager quipped dryly, looking towards the large group with a deep frown across her face. Now then, the trip to this realm has weakened Trigon greatly, his powers are at less than half what they should be. That alone gives us an advantage, but with the rings of Azar we have, perhaps we'll be better able to survive. Ravager added while looking to the Justice League Unlimited silently, Batman frowning slightly before noticing Dr. Fate nodding his head. She makes a point, and we're wasting what precious little time we have left. We must focus our energies on defeating Trigon, not fighting each other. Dr. Fate piped up as he limped his way over to the group with Cher and Etrigan. Agreed. The Titans will draw Trigon's attention, he's only aware of them at the moment. The rest of us will attack Trigon while he's distracted, hopefully that will be enough. But first we'll need to redistribute the rings of Azar if we're to utilize them to the fullest. Batman finally decided and a frown crossed Jinx's lips as she looked over to Nightwing, the masked teen narrowing his eyes onto the pink-haired girl. Don't get too used to this boy blunder, as soon as these demons are dead, I'm taking my pent-up frustrations out on everyone here who had something to do with Temp vanishing like he did. Jinx growled out with a twitch as pink energy swirling around the arm that the string of beads was located on. Turning on her heel, the girl marched off with Tartarus following behind her, the Justice League Unlimited going out with Ravager afterwards. Dude, she seriously needs some anger management classes. Beast Boy noted aloud while looking to his friends, Cyborg sighing as he rubbed his face for a moment. I'm almost hoping Trigon totals us. Cyborg muttered as he followed after the two groups, Nightwing frowning before doing the same. Titans, move out. He ordered and the rest of the team followed behind their leader and into the city once more. Somewhere hidden from mortal eyes, in a place where no human has ever dared walk before. It is a world of fire and brimstone, massive stone formations shaped like ravens are all around and pour lava into rivers, lakes, and even streams throughout its depths. Deep within this vile underworld is a circular rock formation, a familiar blonde laying on it. Naruto groaned lightly before opening his eyes, looking around for a moment, the blonde groaned and sat up. Taking in his surroundings, Naruto frowned upon seeing a world comprised solely of fire and brimstone. Master, are you alright? Kusanagi questioned within the mind of the blonde and Naruto groaned while rubbing his head. No, I let the Kyuubi trick me, he escaped the seal, and what's even worse is that I wasn't able to save Card-chan. Naruto replied inwardly while closing his eyes, and then leaned forward with a frown. Master, you must get up, we still have much work to do. The Kusanagi reminded the blonde while pulsing on his back, and the blonde reached a hand back to touch the sword's hilt. Do what? I just got ripped to shreds from the inside out, and my chakra coils feel like it. I don't think I could even make a low-powered Rasengan if I tried to. The blonde reminded the blade with a grimace, his internal energy feeling as though it had expanded then just exploded from within him. The Kusanagi grimaced as it could feel this as well. The demon's chakra had been held too deeply within his coils, and ripped them open upon his escape. True, your power has been reduced. But it would seem that doesn't matter, you're still here after all. The sword noted, and Naruto gave the blonde that much before closing his eyes and feeling the gaping hole in his chakra coils. Yeah, which is weird, when this happened I should have been killed, although from the looks of things I'm not in the world of the living anymore. Naruto noted mostly to himself, half expecting to see a hole in his stomach, though instead it was just feel a burn on his skin under his suit, where the Kyuubi's seal once was. With all due respect, master, things could be much worse than this. The Kusanagi noted aloud, and Naruto scoffed while crossing his arms over his chest. Oh really, how do you see that? The blonde inwardly demanded of the legendary blade, and it was silent for a moment, contemplating its response. Well, you could have been possessed by Kyuubi instead of it just escaping, something I know we both don't want. Trigun could have made a clone of your mother to demoralize you, you could be completely powerless to do anything. The Kusanagi listed, and Naruto made a mental note not to ask that. The blade had some good ideas, and he only hoped nothing hurt any of them. Fine, things could be worse, but right now, I've lost the girl I love. The demon that was once sealed inside of me is now free and probably running amok, and I have no idea where I am. Naruto reminded the sword angrily, and the sword was silent as it contemplated a response. In my own experience, when one hits rock bottom, master, the only place to go is up, and there isn't any place in the world that's more rock bottom than here, I assure you. Kusanagi offered, and Naruto looked upwards, a frown crossing his features as he realized that the sword was most likely correct. True, and I suppose I really shouldn't mope, I've got demon up topside whose ass needs a serious kicking. Naruto thought to himself with a dark glare, only to blink when he felt a presence nearby. Turning around, the blonde then gaped when he saw a familiar face within the depths of the inferno he'd found himself in. Welcome to hell, Naruto-kun. The blonde heard and turned his head and widened his eyes upon seeing Uchiha Itachi leaning back against a boulder, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. Itachi? What? Naruto asked while groaning and pushing himself up to his feet, only to sway as he nearly lost his balance. As I said, welcome to hell, or more specifically Trigun's prison. Itachi replied calmly, a bored look across his face as he watched Naruto hold his arms out to balance himself for a moment. Somehow I pictured something different. Naruto admitted mostly to himself while looking around the world of fire, and Itachi net for a moment before pushing himself off of the boulder and over to the blonde. Also, how the hell are you here? Naruto then questioned, and Itachi net once more even as he passed the blonde-haired teen. This is hell, Naruto-kun, here the physical and the metaphysical are one and the same. I am a spirit, and due to the nature of hell, I can have form here. Itachi explained even while walking down a long winding path. But do you know how we got down here in the first place? Naruto asked the man with the raised brow, and Itachi nodded his head as they wandered further through the depths of hell. The reason Kyuubi was freed from the seal was because you entered the Rei Raven used to summon Trigun. However, since you clearly couldn't be sealed inside of yourself, and it was a one-way portal, you were thereby transported into the depths of Trigun's former prison. The dark-haired Uchiha explained to the blonde-haired teen as they journeyed further into the depths of the inferno. Okay, then what do we do next? Naruto asked as he followed the man as he walked down into the very depths of hell. We find your girl, Raven, and save her from this hell, find you a way to return to Earth, and you defeat both Kyuubi and Trigun, of course. Itachi replied with a strange smile on his face as he explained. Raising a brow for a moment, Naruto narrowed his eyes onto the man with a frown. How do you even know she's down here? I mean, this isn't the only version of hell in existence, is it? Naruto asked seriously, and Itachi closed his eyes for a moment before answering. Because, it stands to reason that if you are here, so is she. You are also correct in assuming there are other hells out there. The dark-haired Uchiha replied simply, Naruto smirking to himself as he followed him. Sounds good to me. The blonde replied while following behind Itachi, the man walking over to a doorway. Be forewarned, Naruto-kun, not all is as it appears in this infernal abyss. Itachi suddenly warned, and a deep frown crossed Naruto's features while looking to the dark-haired Uchiha. Trust me, I'm more than ready for anything this place can throw at me. Naruto declared, and Itachi shook his head before placing his hands against the door. No, you're not. Itachi retorted while giving the blonde a cold look, then pushed the doors open to reveal the true depths of hell to his blonde-haired companion. Okay, this could take a while. Naruto admitted while looking into the depths, with Itachi nodding his head in agreement before starting down the first portion of their journey to find Raven. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.
It's not a game, it's a